the story of my diagnosis is completely unusual because I happened to I go to an annual asthma clinic. I've always been slightly asthmatic. It didn't stop me doing stuff. And I have a clinic once a year, and I know the asthma nurse I'd seen every year. We just have a chat, and she does a couple of tests, and we see how you going, when's your next holiday and stuff. And at the end, it was like, anything else? And I didn't mean to say it on that day, but I just said, I think I'm a wee bit lighter than I thought I actually was. And she said, have you been meaning to lose weight? And I said, no. And she says, well, and she said, let's do, just to be absolutely sure, let's do some blood tests. And and I actually sat on that blood form for 2 or 3 weeks because I wasn't too worried about it, because I felt fine. There's nothing wrong with me. And the blood test, one of the bloods, hemoglobin, came out quite low. So she asked me to go and do it again to make sure it wasn't a one-off. And it came out even lower. So I got the call to come and see the GP immediately with an appointment already made. And I thought, whoa, what's going on here? And he said, well, apart from, when I walked through into his office, he said, I wasn't expecting such a well-looking man to come into my office looking at these hemoglobin results. And he says to me, that is a sign of iron deficiency, anemia. So I'm going to refer you to an anemia clinic. And I said, fine, okay. And off I went, not thinking there was anything going on. And eventually, I'd even gone on holiday in the meantime, all the way to Barbados for 2 weeks. And I come back to find an appointment that was like another month ahead. And I suddenly said to myself, I don't need, this timing's not right for me, this appointment. And I suddenly remembered that I could invoke my health insurance from the company that I was in. So I phoned up, I asked the GP to refer me to a specialist in that subject, and I had an appointment within 48 hours. And he did. He was immediately suspicious, sent me for a CT scan. Lo and behold, there's all sorts of things going on. And eventually they did a liver biopsy, and eventually I went to see an oncologist who told me I had metastatic neuroendocrine tumours. When I think back, how I know I was feeling at the time isn't what I thought I was feeling at the time, if you get what I'm saying, because I suspect I was in complete shock. I think there was a little bit of denial in there that I actually had cancer. And sometimes I go and look at my scans from my diagnosis, and I look at them, and look at the wording, which I now understand, and say, oh yeah, you definitely had cancer. And so there's a little bit of denial, and there was anger. And do you know the funny thing? The anger was because I was so busy at work, and this was going to affect it. And it's amazing the things that you think about at the time. And I just wanted to look, just do what you need to do, fix it, and I'll get back to work, because I've got so many things I need to get done. And that's one of the reasons why that I launched myself back into work, to try and sort of take my mind off it. But in hindsight, perhaps I should have given it a wee bit more thought and thought of my own personal strategy, how I was going to deal with this, which would then go on to affect how I was going to cope with it. And so I kind of just went along with it. Now that I've been living with the disease for some time, I've obviously learned quite a lot about the disease itself, how it's affecting me, how it might affect me in the future. And so therefore, I'm a very proactive patient. I advocate for myself. I keep a diary about everything that's going on, starting from how I've slept, because to see if that's affecting fatigue, about what I'm eating, to see if that's affecting bowel motility, have I done some exercise, what my weight is the weight changing? Bear in mind, that's what kicked off my whole diagnosis, so I keep a close eye on that, and I'm happy with my weight at the moment. I'm actually a lot lighter than I was when I was diagnosed, and I'm actually at the weight that I should be. Not that I was overweight, I've always been a little skinny guy. And so I'm very, very proactive now, and my diary helps me track issues, and if it gets to the point where I think there's something I need to bring to the attention of either my GP, if I think he can help, or he or she, or my oncologist for the MDT to have a look at and think about. And that's working fine, because my GP is very helpful on it as a sounding board about things that may not, and most of the issues that I've got that are the issues that all people get when they get to my age. And I use him as a sounding board to make sure that it actually is that. And similarly, if I say to if I go to my oncologist and say, look, I've got a lump here, what's going on? And he immediately knew the seriousness of the potential of that, and immediately got me an MRI scan to check that out. So, I'm proactively managing and prompting them to look at the issues that I've got. Something perhaps which I should have done before I was diagnosed, and I may have been diagnosed earlier, and something I say to everybody now who's looking for a diagnosis, who've got symptoms: make a note of them, see if you can tie it in with something else that's causing it, take that evidence to your GP, and don't do what I did and just ignore it because you're too busy at work.